Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Gauthier-Zayas. I am the founder and president of Avant Consulting and Training. It's a division of Conversation Café. Again, hola and good evening, audience members, and welcome to our very first event in our Conversation Café live panel series. Today, what we're going to do is what we hope to do. This discussion aims really to help us create a community and truly announce the launch of our brand new podcast by the name of Conversation Café. This is going to be launching on September 22nd. The podcast, as well as this and future live panel series, is really designed as a space for us to have honest dialogue, to share wisdom, and really community learning around some of the most pressing and transformative topics in leadership today. So before we start today's live panel discussion, to help us better understand the diverse perspectives in the room, we'd like to begin by asking audience members a few questions about authenticity, leadership, gender, and your current role. So I'm going to put a link in the chat, and this brief survey will help us gain a better understanding of the experiences and background of you out there, our audience. So your responses are confidential and will be reported only in aggregate. You may skip any question you don't wish to answer. So if you give me 1 minute or less than a minute, I'm going to drop the link in the chat. If people could go ahead and answer these questions. After the panelists finish their engagement, we're going to share the results of the audience participations in this survey. So here is the link. Okay, so that is the link to a quick survey. If people could take a couple minutes to do that, fill that out while we finish up here, I very much would appreciate it. And again, thank you for filling that out. So your input is very invaluable. Again, we really want to try to shape the future of Conversation Cafe sessions, whether they're the live panels or whether they're actually the podcast episodes that are coming out. Together, what we're trying to do is really build spaces where authentic leadership and diverse voices can be recognized, valued, and heard in a safe and brave space. We're thrilled that you're here to help us kick off this 4-part series with our opening panel today, which is Leadership Authenticity and Social Identities in the Workplace, a female perspective. Today's panel brings together an incredible number of leaders whose professional and lived experiences reflect not only expertise in their fields, but also the resilience, authenticity, and courage that's required to really navigate leadership as women in diverse workplaces. Their voices and perspectives are essential in helping us better understand how identity intersects with leadership, how authenticity can foster trust and inclusion, and how social identities shape workplace dynamics. Each bring a wealth of professional expertise, whether it's through their years of leadership practice, research, or organizational change work, combined with lived experiences of navigating as women across the industries and identities. This unique combination of knowledge and authenticity allows them to speak not just to theory, but to the real everyday realities of leading with courage, navigating challenges, and shaping where inclusion and equity are possible. So, panelists, before we begin, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank each of you for joining this live panel. Your presence here signifies to me, the audience, and the community that your commitment to refining leadership practices that value authenticity and equity. We, the panel, Avant Consulting, we invite you, audience members, not just to listen, but to really engage. Your questions, reflections, and insights will really help us enrich this conversation for all of us. So throughout today's panel, if you have a comment or question, do me a favor and please place it in the chat room, and I will present it to the panelists after they have completed today's engagement. We will open up the space for participant engagement. We will share the results of the quick survey then we're going to ask for your feedback, again, to have you be part of the conversation and not just be sitting on the sideline. So panelists, your brilliance, your professional achievements, and your lived stories make this an extraordinary conversation we are so proud to host. So again, we are deeply grateful to have them share their journeys and wisdom with us today. So let's dive in. Mujeres, are you all ready?
We are. Yes.
All right. So before we jump into this conversation, I want to let the audience get to know you all a little bit better. So I'm going to start off. When I say your name, can you please just raise your hands, even though I know your name is written across the screen? The first panelist is Karen M.S. Williams. She is the dedicated director of Concord Human Services. It's a critical department in the city of Concord, New Hampshire, responsible for providing essential services to residents in need with over 20 years of experience in human services. community outreach, and program management, and has been instrumental in guiding Concord Human Services in its mission to enhance the well being of individuals and families through their responsive, compassionate support. Karen's approach to leadership emphasizes collaboration with local nonprofits, schools, social service providers, and government entities to ensure that comprehensive services and their deliveries address unique needs of Concord's diverse populations. Karen's career spans various leaderships in public service, where she has really developed a reputation for effective program management and advocating for policies that promote social justice, equality, and community resilience. Her professional background is complemented by her academic qualifications, including her bachelor's in psychology and certifications in nonprofit leadership. In addition to her role at the Concord Human Services, Karen is also a passionate advocate for community-based solutions, regularly participates in various advisory boards. Outside of her professional duties, Karen enjoys spending time with her families, shopping, and traveling. So thank you and welcome to Karen. Gina, I'd like to talk a little bit about you and
Yep.
brag up for a minute. So Gina is the founder of Shine Bright Strategies. It's a social impact consulting firm that helps nonprofits and community coalitions move from overwhelmed to well-organized, mission-aligned, and fully funded. Gina brings deep expertise in nonprofit strategy, fundraising, marketing, and program development skills. She honed while supporting the nonprofits and community engagement efforts at a billion-dollar technology company. There, she's also served as the company's DEI lead, where she built and led strategy support over 800 employees, coached employee resource group leaders, and proudly chaired the parent and caregiver ERG for more than 3 years. With a passion to be a community leader, Gina also serves as the board chair at the Community Kitchen. She sits on the leadership teams for trauma responsive I get tongue-tied with that, and I should know better, but that's what Monadnock. There we go. And the Monadnock DEIB Coalition. It serves on the City of Keens Human Rights Committee and the Board of Trustees at Cedar Crest and Hannah Grimes Center. She holds her master's in community engagement from Merrimack College. And finally, Tiana Lawrence. She is a Lowell native, is diligent about racial equity, DEI, and leadership development with 5+ years of experience in public speaking, implementing workshops and programming in the nonprofits and higher education sectors. Tiana seeks to leverage community building and organize to disrupt power dynamics, impact leadership, increase equitable decision-making processes, and strengthen diverse stakeholder engagement. Tiana serves as the Director of Quality Management at a Coalition for a Better Acre, providing comprehensive program development and evaluation. Additionally, Tiana is an adjunct professor at Merrimack College in North Andover, Mass., and teaches diversity, social justice, and ethics in the traditional undergraduate program and community organizing and development in the Masters of Education program. In her personal time, when she has it, Tiana she enjoys and is a freelance public speaker and DEI practitioner, having provided workshops and trainings and actually participated in several panels. She was featured as a keynote speaker at the Northeastern University's Empower You conference. Tiana is also a published author. She holds a Master's of Education in Community Engagement and a BA in Women and Gender Studies and English from Merrimack College. So, panelists, welcome, and are you ready? Ready for this? All right. So what we're going to do is once the panelists start asking questions and engaging, I'm shutting my camera off. I am here as an ally to my wonderful sisters. I am not a guest panelist. I am simply the person introducing these amazing folks today. So thank you for that. So I'm going to now shut off my camera. And Karen, please go ahead and start us off with the right question.
We should start with thanking Dr. Zayas for getting us together today. When just listening to all these bios that we have, I'm amazed at myself. It's like, I really did that. And then I hear the amazing work that the ladies are coming and what we're doing. So let's start this off right. So my first question, how do you ladies define authentic leadership? I know it's a loaded question, isn't it?
Diana? Yeah, I could kick it off. Thank you, Karen. For me, when I think about authentic leadership, the first thing comes to mind is that it is a ongoing journey. So authentic leadership may look different every day. And I think it starts with being self-aware, right? Knowing who you are as a person, regardless of professional journey or, career field choice. I think that's the beginning of understanding what authenticity means to you is knowing how you would like to show up in a space, right? What works for you, what matters to you, what values do you have, and what are you looking to bring into the workspace? And really being transparent with that as well, because you can know yourself, but being transparent with the folks that you're around, particularly with leadership, is really important in my thoughts. So it's really about knowing who you are and what values and energy you'd like to bring into a workspace. When we think about leadership as well, it's really about how you engage with folks, right? Who are you talking with and not talking with, right? And why, and questioning that. So there's a lot of reflection going on,
Yes.
but that's what comes to mind when I think about authentic leadership is being self-aware, and knowing what values you want to bring to the space.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Miss Gina,
Yeah, I
what
mean,
do
I
you
was gonna
think?
say something wildly similar in the fact of really knowing your values
Yes.
and showing up, knowing your strengths, and obviously knowing where your shortfalls are, right? And not being afraid to ask for help, and kind of surrounding yourself with the people that can help fill those gaps for you. But I really do think you're right about just being like truly sure of who you are as a leader and staying true to that. Cause I feel like we're constantly being pushed where we could let go of that integrity. So we really have to hold on to that. So yeah, I don't really have much else to add, but I feel like that's what I think about with authentic leadership.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I actually agree with you both. I think that for me, authentic leadership is really, as you said, being who you are. Our core values don't change, right? I think our behavior changes depending on the environment. So it all depends on the relationship that you have with individuals. My interaction with my clients is going to be very different than I'm with my colleagues, and then with maybe with my superiors or other collaborative partners. So I really think it's about you are who you are. You are true to who you are. I mean, you bring these values and your morals to whatever space that you're in. But I really think it's about keeping your identity and your authenticity. And it is about when you don't know the answer, not trying to make it seem like you do know it. And I think that sometimes when you're in positions of leadership, there's an expectation for that. But there's also the vulnerability that we can bring to the table saying, I don't know the answer, or thank you for studying, teaching me something else. Because I think that is a learning opportunity for everyone to be able to say, I didn't know that. And I learned something today. And I think that when we can be that vulnerable and really just be authentic with that, I think it really allows for the other person to see your authenticity, right? And being genuine with who you are. Because at the end of the day, you don't want anything else to be, because I am who I am and this is what I bring to the table. But I think that we have adjustments in our interactions with others. So that's what I have to add. Anything else, ladies, before we move on to the next question?
Think for me, just that vulnerability piece is critical, right? Because vulnerability could be looked at as weakness,
That
as
is
a leader,
correct.
particularly depending on what space you're in, how much power you hold, right? Are you the decision
Correct.
maker? And so when you think about what vulnerability means as far as like authentic leadership, it's like you said, admitting what you don't know, that could
Right.
be dangerous, in certain
Absolutely.
situations. So
Yes.
knowing how to read the room, right, is critical. But I just wanted to elevate, particularly as a woman of color, how important it is to know when to be vulnerable, right? Because there are moments where you don't need to be. And then there's others where it would advance the work you're doing and it will relationship build and it will build trust. And that goes a longer way sometimes. So I just wanted to
I
elevate.
agree. Yes. Thank you. Gina, anything else? Yeah, I
Next
agree.
question.
Next question.
Hi. All right. So, can you share a moment when your social identity, so your gender, race, your caregiving role, impacted how you showed up as a leader?
I'll start this one, Tiana. I think
Okay.
that there's a lot in there. And I think that I'll give you an example of what one of my recent interaction that I had. I actually had it with a client. I came in with a request to see us in services. This person actually was Spanish, as I am. And they looked at me and they said that I was going to have a hard time here. And looked at my arm and they said, you're going to have a hard time. And I couldn't really figure out what was a part of the discussion that we were having. Because you're here for service, for public service for us to be able to do. And I took it aback. I really didn't, respond too quickly. I was just more in shock, I think, and then proceeding to what we needed to do. But I don't think the person really realized that I was a director for this department, right? And not having, I think that sometimes There's an impact of not believing who you are and why couldn't I be a director in this position. So I think that that was one of the impacts that I've had most recently, and it's been carrying with me of saying, wow, it's still sometimes that even our own culture and our own supports, we don't always have that, and it's not looking like, and it might be because we're in spaces where people like us are not there and not in those positions. So I think that that's part of the work that we have to do to change that, to be able to see that people of color, and we still have the skill sets, and I still am bringing my experience and my abilities, and I just happen to be a woman of color, and looking at that and not necessarily to be the first thing that they notice. Tiana?
Yeah, this is a loaded question for me.
Mhm. I bet.
One thing, there's a million things that came to my mind because this happens every single day that my social identities actually impact how I show up. And that might be internally, right? In my own head,
Yes,
wondering what I should say, how I should say it, not knowing how to react to how people are perceiving me. I think that perception piece you brought up, Karen, was really important in this conversation. So I was a director. I mean, I'll put my age out there. I was 24 years old as a director at a nonprofit. And I think that definitely impacted how people saw me. I'm young, I'm a woman, and I'm Black. And I'm proudly all of those things. And so I think it really, I was disrupting what people thought about as being someone who's a director or a leader. And so people were perceiving me in 100 different ways, whether that's not talking to me, not valuing, insight, what experience could someone have, or not creating space for me to share that. And this has happened across the way, right? So I think it definitely impacts how not only people perceive me, but how people interact with me as well. Like, can I go to you, for advice? Should I be depending on you for your skill set, right? Depending on, having a vastly different background. I work in a highly diverse city. And so I think that also impacts how people view me, how people see me and that connection piece as well. But I definitely think, how people approach me is impacted by a perception, right? Without having that
absolutely.
dialogue, you wouldn't know who I am.
Thank you. Yeah, that's really deep. Miss Gina?
I mean, I feel like this has evolved for me over my years. So when I was younger in my career and in the tech industry that was male dominated, and it was sort of like this boys club kind of company. I felt like I was a new mother, and then I went on to have 2 more children while I was still at that company, and I felt like that was part of my identity I almost couldn't bring to work for a
Mhm.
while. I was one of the newer, like, only parents, at the organization. It was a pretty young workforce, and they just weren't at that stage yet, and we talked about this a little offline, but, like, always having to prove yourself, right? Like, work is just as important to me as family is, and yet I can't bring that part of me to work, because I'm afraid you're gonna think I'm not taking it as seriously, or you're not gonna promote me in the ways that I wanna be promoted, or I'm not gonna be seen as those other guys that can just show up because they have a wife at home doing all the cooking and the caretaking and all those things. So, it got better as people got older and they started to have their own babies and started to understand. And then they mentioned, like, in the bio, like, leading the parent and caregiver group was really important to me. Like, when we started to have employee resource groups, it was like, no, we need to talk about this because my experience as a woman here is much different than my male counterparts. And I want you to understand my experience and vice versa. So it led to some really healthy conversations. But I feel like now, being more in the nonprofit space, I don't know, I just feel like it's a little bit more accepting and welcoming. Like, I'm thinking of times where I've been like, having to serve dinner at the community kitchen, and like the kids are rolling up with me, and it's not like, well, I'm a leader in this space and I
Right.
keep that life separate. It's like, it just seems more welcoming. Thinking of a time, like, I coached softball with literally a kid on my back. I was like coaching first base with like a baby on my back. And it was just like, I'm a leader and I'm going to coach this team, but I got a little one and I have no one to watch him. So he is with me
Yeah.
today. Well, no, it's gotten easier over the years, but it's definitely something you're always like well aware of.
Right. And I think that there was so much in your sharing, but I think that one thing, Gina, that I will say is that there's no way that they were not. It was a male dominated field, but there was no way that nobody was other a parent. There were men that were parents there, but because you're a woman. parent is different, right? Because we are those nurturers. We probably are, primarily we are the caregivers. So I think it just talks about our differences in gender and that social identity of how we are treated and looked at differently just because we are a parent. But there's no way in that company, such a large, that the males were not fathers, but yet it was looked at differently. So you're right. I think that they take some of these portions of us that we are not going to be as invested in the company just because I became a parent. Actually, no, I am even more so because I still want to keep my identity as a worker. And I think that's something that is lost. Again, I think that we can continue going really further in this, but we have a limited time. And I think we can, this is getting really good. So, Tiana, please take it ahead.
Thank you. So, next question is, how do you handle being the only one or one of the few women of color or women in leadership spaces?
Yeah.
Sure. Lived in New Hampshire for over 30 years at this point in time. And I can tell you that the position that I have now as a director of the Concord Human Services, I was the first person of color to have this position. First person of color, male or female. And I've shown up in a lot of these spaces as always being the only one. And that is still true today. And I think that you have to just be able to walk in who you are. You have to be true to who you are in the spaces that you're in. I think you have to walk in confidence with that, even if maybe sometimes you don't feel confident. But I think that for me, being the only one has also this invisible responsibility to make sure that other people like me are given an opportunity to also be in these spaces, right? Because let's be realistic. If I was in a company and I'm not doing a good job just because I'm not performing well, my performance and the skin of my color would be coinciding, right? It would be together. Yet my counterpart that might continue behind me, if they do a poor performance, that may not be even a part of the questioning that they have. So for me, I've always carried a very heavy load of responsibility of making sure that I'm doing the good job so others can have the same opportunities that I've had. Because if we don't create it, and it's also about who can I bring with me to the spaces, because let's be realistic, I can't take this with me, right? So it's about that leadership part and really creating the space for others. And for me, sometimes it's not even about a race. It's about any social identity that you may have, because that's what's important. But again, also as a person of color, it's a responsibility that I think that I have, that I need to make sure that wherever space I am feeling, and being also honest that if you're hiring me, it's not to be seen, but it's also to be heard. So if you're doing this the wrong decisions, then I am not the person that you need to hire or be in that space. So, Miss Gina?
I mean, I think I just want to acknowledge like how hard it is to be the only one
Mhm. Mhm.
and how the environment is set sort of by the people there and how they really have an opportunity to make it welcoming or not welcoming. So I just wanted to sort of like acknowledge that. But also, I think with age comes wisdom. And I think just recognizing that we all have unique strengths and perspectives, and they're valued and important. And I'm finding myself repeating that to my own children. Like, for example, my oldest daughter is working as a para educator. She's 18 years old. She just graduated high school in June. And she wants to be a teacher. And this is her way to gain experience. And she is so worried about like, what are people going to say in my age? And this is so weird that I'm so young and they're going to think weird things. And like, her mind is just spiraling about that. And I'm like, you have no idea what a strength this is for you. Like, those students are going to love you. These teachers are going to appreciate your perspective because you're young and cool. And, and I'm seeing it as such a gift, but I feel like it takes a while to get there to realize like, no, I'm thinking about this differently than you. And all of us are. And that's really important. I don't know, just sort of like leaning into that.
Well, I think it touches bases what Tiana just shared, right, in her space of being that only one and being that respected person. But Tiana, please share.
Yeah, this brought up a lot for me, especially being so the only, I know Dr. Zayas mentioned was a professor and I started when I was 23. And I'm also a woman of
Amazing.
color. I have never experienced a teacher at all who looked like me. And so I really battled what it was going to be like representing at a predominantly white institute and people that look like me and don't look like me and people from all different backgrounds. And so I really was in my head for probably the first month or so of teaching.
I believe you.
thinking I had to fit a mold that was never designed for me. And then all of a sudden I had this release, like I have to be myself. And so I'm going
Yes.
to share what matters to me. I'm going to gather information and research things that I want to bring to my classroom. I'm going to have conversations. And one thing I realized too is one of my approaches that works for me, particularly when I'm the only one, is talking with people, right? That dialogue and that one on one or that group interaction really matters. So I had to choose to be unafraid to say what mattered to me, honestly, regardless
Mhm,
of what the repercussion might be.
mhm.
And I think that that was all the difference. I'm going to share what's on my mind. I'm going to remain curious, asking questions at the table, whether that's at my nonprofit space, right? Or with students, really broke the mold, right? Of what we perceive a leader to be, or what we perceive a director to be, or what we perceive a professor to be. But it's challenging. And I battled myself every single day. I think Gina knows. I taught a class, a master's class, and that was a challenge. And I felt really intimidated by my age and who I was and the length of my experience. Not that the depth of it wasn't enough, but can I show up and be myself in this space? And I think when I did that, it made all the difference in a setting for me. So how I handled it was being unapologetically
Oh, I
myself.
love it. Love
And that
that.
comes at a cost in certain spaces.
Yes.
What I mattered is for me, professionally and personally, and for the people I'm working with, it made all the difference because then everybody else could be unapologetically them to an extent. And that made
Yes.
all the difference.
Yeah. And I think that that's great. And I think that you're so right. Right. I think that, and we create these scenarios in our minds. And some of them are real and some of that perceived. But I think that I so appreciate your honesty and also the resilience and the strength that you had, especially at such a young age, because sometimes we are in these environments that make it so much difficult for us to be able to do that. But once you did that and you own that, that just changes the perspective of saying, you know what, I'm going to walk in this space. I'm going to create what I need for this space. And I am sure that other people that saw you like you, your students, could be able to do it that identity, because you're right. I've been in New Hampshire, I did my college here, and there were not people that looked like me. And I think that systems still struggle to have people in that leadership role be looking like us. And even if it's not like us, for Gina, it's just being that person in that environment where it's very male dominated. So I definitely agreed and appreciate this conversation. So what institutional practices or mentorship, sponsorship, and flexible works have most effective been supporting your growth? And what is still missing?
Start.
Yeah, thank you.
So with this one, I feel like mentorship, although I can't say like I've had great mentors. I mean, I've had some, I guess, but not like in a formal setting or formal program. But I really think sponsorship is so important. Like people saying your name in the rooms that you are not in and advocating for you on your behalf. Like, no, she's the one that you need to talk to, type of thing. Really important. And I wish
Absolutely.
that was like a better, more addressed, more talked about as, needing that. Because I just remember like always asking, like, how do I grow here? How do I get ahead? How do I like, and you're relying sort of on your boss that's in the rooms with the bigger bosses and like the executives to be like, no, tell them I'm the person. Like, because I'm not in those spaces, right? So
Right.
you're just like,
Right.
need you to like be the voice for me.
Yeah.
But also obviously remembering to do that for other people too, like when and where you can. But yeah, I just think that part's really, really important.
Sienna?
I can definitely add to that as far as knowing and understanding the difference between mentorship and sponsorship, right? It's that inviting people into spaces, that they wouldn't necessarily be in because title, right, or status or conversation and bringing people with you to the table makes all the difference. The mentioning of someone's name could go the longer way. Sometimes with mentorship, I think having access to a formal mentorship is important, particularly for people different social identities, right? Knowing that you could have this type of relationship with somebody. And it doesn't always have to be formal, right? But what does informal mentorship look like? How do you access it? How do you maintain it? I think for institutions to really kind of put that into practice and just say, hey, you could start meeting with people, right? Getting people out of their box, right? people from different, different sides of the room start talking to each other. I think that that really matters, but that sponsorship piece is to me the most important, right? And that's a part of being that authentic leadership and bridging this together is you have to be able to share who you are, what you know, how you like to do it. Because once you let people know that, then they could speak to what Karen does, right? Then they could speak to what Gina brings to the table. When you're able to share that, when you share your values, when you act on them. So I definitely think that sponsorship piece has been very effective. It's gotten me a lot of places. And then when you start talking up other people, I think that social capital piece is the most
Yeah.
critical in this work. Who
Yes. It's true.
it's a people world.
Yeah.
We're a community. So I think that's very important.
And I think that you're right. I'll finish up with this is going to be our last question for this, but I will say that I agree with everything that you're saying. And I think that for me, when I started my career, people saw leadership skills in me and things in me that I did not see. Right. I was just who I am. They also, I think that they saw somebody who was very hungry for learning and wanting more and an ability. So I've been very fortunate to have mentors in my life that have been able to see something in me, get me connected to those other programs. I've been in part of leaderships. I did Emerging Leaders of Color. Not only did I start there as a participant, but then I became the president of that. So I think that is these organizations. So the sponsorship, I think, is really, really important because again, it's creating these bridges and this networking to be able to say, you know what, I can't do that here, but let me connect you to. So it's about connectivity, right? And relationship building. And also doing that trust part. So when we're able to do that. So I think that that's really, really good. I think that one of those things is that the things that we have to do. So Miss Gina, can you take it away?
Yeah. So, what advice would you offer to organizations aiming to cultivate a pipeline of women leaders from underrepresented backgrounds?
I mean, the very first thing that comes to my mind is meeting people where they are at. If you are not going to where these women are, where these folks from underrepresented backgrounds are, how could you expect them to feel like it's obtainable? Right? Meeting people where they are, going to them, going to their communities, having one on one conversations is important. And a lot of times, for example, I would have never in my life thought being an adjunct professor was something for me, ever. I never even thought about teaching. I loved it, and I think other people saw that in me, hence the sponsorship. But I think if you're aiming to cultivate a pipeline, you have to start meeting people where they're at. Make it invite people into spaces and actually then hear them, listen to them, right? Because it's one thing to say we offer this and then have 100 barriers for why somebody can't join your organization, or you have all these requirements, even educational requirements sometimes really block people who have 20 plus or 10 plus 5 years lived experience where they're on the ground doing the actual work. They know the ins and out of something, but you need a master's degree, unfortunately. So I think understanding what barriers you have on a policy level, right, with organizations is just as important as it is going to have these conversations very directly with people. Go to the community spaces, let people know who you are, what you do it. And then also on the back end, it's twofold, right? It's internal and it's external. You can't uphold policies that have barriers for the very people you want to be a part of your
Right.
organization.
Isn't that true?
So
Yeah.
so it's twofold. You can't do one without the other. So
Mhm.
that's where I'm at.
Yeah. Gina?
I mean, I think that's a great place to start. I mean, internally, I was thinking about like employee resource groups and how they're such a great resource, and just a great way to get people together to, um, cultivate this pipeline of women leaders. Yeah, I don't know if I have too much more to add there.
But and I agree with you, right? And I think that I think as employers also not being afraid to put preferred on when they're looking for somebody, right? I think that sometimes we get preferred, and I think that that is a leg up. It is not. I speak Spanish, and I've had opportunities that I've applied for volunteer opportunities or jobs because they preferred it, and that was a language I could speak, right? So that was something that could bring me in that otherwise I wouldn't have been able to because there was something missing there. So I think that is really identifying and who's your audience? What is in your community? We should have spaces where the employees are actually representing the people that you serve, regardless of what that is, whether you're in the private sector or not. So what are we doing and why are we not being intentional? I think that that's part of it. We have to be intentional for these, and we cannot hire just because of the look or checkbox, right? Because that does a disservice not so much for the organization, but also the person. And it's going to be, it's not going to win, right? You're not going to be successful in this. So I think that we really just have to be intentional in our steps and really wanting to creating maybe the safe space in that organization that when you do bring this person in from whatever background that they are, that you're ready for it as well as are your employees, right? Well, that's whether it's cultural competency trainings or whatever it is that you do and put in place, because again, me may want to, but if we don't have the safe space for that, then individuals are just not going to be able to say it's not the right environment for them. So I think there's a lot of work that has to be done here, but it has to be intentional. Without intentionality, I don't think we're going to go very far. So that's what I would say about that.
Thing I just thought of, sorry, was like we used to pay employees to refer other employees, right? Like it's like an easy way for recruitment for HR. So they're like, who do you got? Who do you know in your network? But we often hang with people that are just like us, right? So at an all tech company, it's like not a good strategy. So I think, to just be deliberate about where and how we're getting people, especially if we have,
Yeah.
we want to be different.
Yeah, I agree. And I know we're almost running out of time, but I think that we have two more questions. So Ms. Tiana, can you go next, please?
Absolutely. So finish this sentence. To be an authentic woman leader in today's world means.
I think you took my words earlier. It's about being your authentic self and being unapologetic for it. This is who I am. That's it.
Yeah, I was gonna
Miss Gina?
say it means like leading with both strength and vulnerability, honoring my values, even when it's unpopular or illegal or banned, and making space for others, especially voices that are often overlooked. So that's what I would say.
Tiana?
Say for me, when we talked about this earlier, being vulnerable, courageous,
Mm,
maintaining a sense of purpose. And I definitely believe that a woman leader today is always advocating. I know we talked about, I have a quote in my office, like lift as we climb, right?
I like that.
We're lifting as we climb. And I think that that is critical to that pipeline piece. And it's also about, and we discussed this, but it's really is about the self-awareness piece. So knowing who you are and being unafraid of that and unapologetic is what it means to be today. I think a lot of women are showing up and being unafraid of who's in the room, right? And and like I know Gina, I love your example of having your kid on your back. Like
Yeah.
it's what it is. Like
Yeah.
we're human beings,
Yeah.
and regardless of how I look or where I come from, I am me. And so
Yes.
being a woman leader today is being you and showing up, and I think really building power, not just having it, not just exercising it, but a woman leader to me is a woman who's building power
Love it.
amongst people and
I love
sharing.
it. Yeah. Thank you. That's a perfect way to end it. Like, what else can we
Yeah.
say here?
We don't even know what a word to say.
Yes. So, how can women leaders resist the pressure to assimilate and instead transform leadership norms from within? That's a loaded one. So, let me repeat it again. So, how can women leaders resist the pressure to assimilate and instead transform leadership norms from within? I know, right? That's a difficult one. But I think that is if you're not true to who you are and bringing these, and I think it depends on the space that you have. If you have a safe space, you can be able to take these ideas. I am very fortunate in the careers that I've had, and that indicates and still valid here where I'm at, to be able to have the ability to go to my colleagues and my superiors and be able to have that and share these ideas. And being open to that, right? And I think that when we have that openness to be able to do that, so I am not afraid to ask a question. I am not afraid to bring an idea. And I have the support within the organization to be able to share this and creating an opportunity to be able to do that. So I feel like I'm very fortunate in that to be able to do that.
I feel like for me, I want to address the importance of not every space is meant for you and not every space is a healthy one.
Yes.
Um, and so sometimes that pressure to assimilate will actually break you from the inside out. And so if you feel that way, it is more than okay to leave. right? Because there are spaces out there that are not going to force you to assimilate. And once you start feeling those pressures, it's okay to say, hey, maybe this isn't the healthiest environment for me. I love this work. I'm dedicated to this work, but finding another space might be the better alternative. Because I have been there and I'm like, wait, why am I straightening my hair every day?
Mm,
Or
mm,
why do I feel like I have to recorrect my dialect or
mhm,
how I talk, or I
mhm,
want to.
mm,
And so sometimes the space isn't meant for me. And that's okay. And we could create space. So when I think about how you could do that from within, it's space seeking, finding people. I know you mentioned going to your colleagues, like finding people that show up for you could help resist that. Like I made sure I wear my hair curly in my professional photos because
mhm.
how it grows happens to
That's
grow
right.
out of my head.
Right.
And so that is me, and
Right.
it's gonna be like that, and, keeping your energy up, and I think it goes back to that value piece, is that pressure to assimilate is based on what? Who's telling you that? And I think questioning, "Wait, who's telling me that I need to
Right.
be this way? And
Right.
why? And
Right.
at what cost am I willing to do that?" And so when
Absolutely.
you self-reflect, I think that introspection is how you could battle that, right? Because there are pressures at work.
Absolutely.
Professionalism is very much tied to a certain standard for people that probably don't look like us, right?
I
Or
agree.
a particular set of folks.
It's
And
true.
so to battle that is to redefine.
Mm. Love
Hey,
it.
who am I? I'm not gonna take this definition,
Right.
right?
I love it.
Assimilate to who standards. And so I think it's that keeping that core piece, finding space that matters to you, and building that sense of community, whether it's your colleagues, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, just community building, I think is at the core of battling that pressure.
Like, yeah, I agree. I agree.
And I'm thinking about Tiana's example about being a professor, and like when we try to assimilate, we're essentially like not having fun anymore, right? Like it's
Mm.
inauthentically
Mhm.
not ourselves. And I feel like that's my first cue, like something's off. It's just like I'm not having fun and I'm trying to do it like everybody else and I'm being uncomfortable. And when you can finally like recognize that and put all that down and just show up like you would, um, it's 1,000 times better.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think that if we have to move from those spaces, it does not mean that we failed. We just did what was
Absolutely.
best for us, right? So it's not a failure. It's a movement that's going to be best for us. And I think that that's an important part in not necessarily attaching to both. That is. But we have our wonderful host here. Dr. Sayas is back with us. So thank you for us. I think that we need to come back because there's so much more that we could be able to discuss tonight. And it was just getting good. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
Please bring us back for a part two of this because I think
Yes.
there's so much
Yes.
more that we can discuss. Thank you so much for having us.
100%.
Yes.
Ladies, I just have to say this. Oh, man. There it is. So, just wanted to kind of, that was really good. That was really interesting for me, just listening, right? So, I wanna say thank you for just truly leaning into you. Right. And I think that for me, what's really important for the audience members is, yeah, listen to the conversations, learn what I'm hoping that, maybe people walk away with a different perspective or some shiny aha moment is what I call them. But part of it is making sure that we're offering the audience opportunities to actually engage with us as well. So it's not just us talking at the audience. It really is just us. Let's call in the audience. So at this point of our panel, if anyone in the audience has a question or a comment, please put it in the chat. I'm going to give it just a few seconds. If nobody does it, that's fine, and then we'll move on to the next phase of what we can talk about. Is that okay? It looks like I thought it was a question, but it's not. So what I like to do now, if it's okay, is go into the conversation about at this point, so you all share your perspectives based on the questions. So at this point, what I'm going to ask each of you is to sit here and think for a second and offer the audience a call to action. So what do I mean by this? So for me, when I say call to action, so this series, this live panel, right, that's talking about leadership, authenticity, social identities in the workplace, right? And it's the female perspective, but throughout the next 3 months going forward, we're going to get the male perspective, we're going to get the non-binary perspective, and then have the last panel be a sample of a little bit of everybody, right? Because I think that sometimes when we only talk about one angle, how do we build community where we're not actually allowing that to happen? So, what I'm asking you all to do is what would you like the audience to know or to do in order to really support? Because this is what this is about. It's about supporting, leadership, authenticity, not just our gender identities, but of course, that's a big one, but the intersection of our social identities, all of them. But for the female angle or the female perspective, what is it that you want them to kind of consider, to do, to act when it comes to continue to stay the course, especially during a period where there is challenge after challenge that kind of is creating barriers of progress towards equality, right? Because that's what we're all talking about here, equality. The brain understands what it is. We know what it is. People know what it is. That's what we're aiming for. So, in your own voice, in your own experience, please share with the audience what is your call to action that you're hoping that the audience member would do outside of listening to this or watching this stream. Tiana, can I point it to you first, and then you can popcorn it to whoever you want after that.
Sounds good. So I will note, I wrote on my paper, I have a little side paper here. Lean into who you are. And this was probably about 4 hours ago. And when you mentioned Dr. Zayas, to lean into you, that is exactly my call to action. And I also would note, share your thoughts at whatever table you're at. Share your thoughts, share your ideas, share what's on your mind, and be unafraid of that. And also, I would note I'm very big on relationship building. Ask somebody who you wouldn't normally talk to for a conversation, whether that's meeting in your office in the morning, they're going for a walk, getting a lunch, getting a coffee. Create some space where you could have a one on one conversation with folks. And I think that starts building that relationship. It's reflective of leadership, right? You want to carry that with you. And that's a part of asking people to lift as they climb. Bring somebody in on your conversation, bring somebody into your community. So lean into you. Definitely bring somebody in in your community, and be unafraid to share your ideas at whichever table you're sitting at.
Love it.
Thank you.
Gina, talk to us, please.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm thinking about 1,000 different things. I mean, I feel like I literally keep going back to like my tech experience, and I'm thinking I saw a stat about this recently, and I don't remember it verbatim, but like women get interrupted so many more times than men, and we don't have the ability in the space to like speak a full thought or get it all out. Or so I guess where I'm going with this is like recognize that females, right? This is the female perspective. Work looks different for us. And I want you to kind of understand the nuances that come with that. And with that, sort of help where you can. So give us the space to lead, sponsor us in the rooms, like, try to rise up women leadership, women of color within your organization, like whatever you can do to be an ally, please do that because we need all the support we can get. So that's where I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking about.
So, yeah. And I agree with everything that has been said. I think that for me is who is in your circle that you can provide mentorships for? Who is there that you can be able to bring along with you in that journey? Even if it is just bringing them to a meeting, even if it is bringing them to a space, sending to a conference so that way they can be able to do that. So creating opportunities for individuals to be able to, their skill sets to be honed in, to be able to grow and enhance, right? Leadership skills that we have, but it needs to be enhanced sometimes. So creating opportunities for that growth and that mentorship to be able to create spaces for individuals, because we do not want our legacy to end with us. We want the legacy to continue and have a succession plan. So who can we do that with and carry us and take them with in our journey?
Muchas gracias, ladies.
De nada.
So before we hop off, what I like to do is allow you all the opportunity to share with the audience. Like if somebody wants to reach you to kind of connect with you, because you all know me, and some of the audience members most know me, but maybe some don't. I'm all about building community. I've always been creating spaces where people can actually come together. We don't have to agree with everything, but we have to be able to see what the impact is of us disagreeing. right? And what is the valuable lesson to learn? So I would love for each of y'all to share, the contact information. If somebody is looking to want to connect with each of you, share your contact. Go for it. So, Karen, please.
So I can be reached at 603 230 3794. And my email is kwilliams at concordnh.gov. Please reach out to me. I am willing to speak, bring in any way I can possibly help. I would love to do that in that opportunity. Thank you.
Perfect. Gracias.
De nada.
On
Gina?
LinkedIn, so people can find me on LinkedIn. It's under my name, Gina Burke. I think it does say Shine Bright Strategies now. That would probably be the best way to get in touch.
Yeah, hello everyone. I could also be reached at LinkedIn. That's Tiana Lawrence MED. And I also work at Coalition for a Better Acre. So you can find me there on their website.
Awesome sauce, everybody. So, what I'd like to do is first, again, thank you all for agreeing to be part of the panel. Number one, it's very important. Number two, I also want to share with the audience that if you want this type of content, want more information from us about consulting and training, I could be reached either on LinkedIn or I could be reached at our website, which I have my email address there as well. But our website is www.avant, which is the name of the company, C and T, like Avant, C and T.com. So that's the website, www.avantcnt.com. I can be reached at my name here, which is G Gauthier-Zayas at avantcnt.com as well. I would love for everybody to kind of follow us there, follow us here. We really are trying to create community. This is what this is about. This panel is going to be uploaded and actually available to make the public starting next Monday. So I will be posting this on my LinkedIn page and other social media pages to let people know that it's ready. If you see something, hear something, please like something and let us know. We would love to understand, what is it, what might be some other conversations or other topics that might be interested or interesting for the audience out there. And I'm hoping that the audience can join us and tell their friends that next month on September 25th, we're talking about the same topic: authenticity, leadership, and social identities in the workplace, but the male perspective. So that'll be on September 25th, which is going to be exactly a month from now, the same time, 6 to 7 p.m. If you are interested in joining us, please go ahead and let us know. You can use the same link that you registered for this, or again, you can actually find the information on our website. So, ladies, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Audience members, thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you all at the next Conversation Cafe. And don't forget, the final thoughts are the following. On September 22nd, the Conversation Cafe podcast will debut. On September 25th is this panel, and we're hoping that you continue to be part of our community. Muchas gracias, everybody. Take care and thank you. Adios.
Thank you.